what I have found in working with people who really want to advance their lives is that there's three main voices that are always messing with us. The voice of the chicken, which is, don't do it, worry. Like it's the voice of, you're going to fail. This isn't going to turn out. If you say that, they're going to yell at you. Don't ask your boss for a raise. Like the voice of the chicken is a profound voice of all your fears. And it squawks at you, right? Like really loud. Now, the next voice is the voice of the brat, right? Now, and I've always found that one person is more chicken or more brat, just so you know, right? And I don't know if you guys can tell, I am way more bratty than I am chicken. um, and so the voice of the brat is, I don't want to, maybe tomorrow, maybe I will.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dreamcatcher podcast, a place where your dreams can find a voice. I'm your host, Celine Chenoy. Thank you to all of you who return every week to tune in to become a better version of yourself. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already, and rate our show if you enjoy this episode. The road to success isn't straight or simple. We will encounter obstacles, deviations, and unexpected turns of events. But often, the challenges we face don't come from the outside world, but from within. My guest, Lauren Zander, says that we need to get out of our own way if we want to create the life we want with all our hearts. She's here to offer guidance on how to navigate our way through these blocks. Lauren Zander is the co-founder and chairwoman of Handel Group, an executive life coaching company. Her coaching methodology, the Handel Method, is taught in over 50 universities and institutes of learning around the world, including MIT, Stanford Graduate School of Business, NYU, and the New York City Public School System. Lauren holds a Take No Prisoners brand of radical personal accountability and has spent over 20 years coaching thousands of private and corporate clients to human better, including Hugh Jackman, Questlove, Miki Agrawal, and executives at Live Nation, Ticketmaster, Dropbox, BASF, and Sequoia. In this interview, Lauren will shed light on common inner barriers, including negative self-talk, an inability to confront the truth, procrastination, and past family hurts we haven't healed. She'll also offer healthier and more empowering ways to approach everyday life that can elevate us. Hi, Lauren. How are you doing today?
I am well. Thanks for having me.
Great. So I'm really happy to connect with you to learn more about you and your personal philosophy, which I find very inspirational, but also very practical and based on real world truths. It's going to be great talking to you and learning more about all of that.
Let's hit it. I'm excited. Let's see where we go.
So, Lauren, I want to start our conversation by asking you, if there were any pivotal experiences in your life that shaped your personal philosophy and how you coach people.
I would say I'm actually sorry to say how I coach people is radically unconventional. And then when you hear why it's so radically unconventional, it'll be like, dun, 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 you're kidding. That's terrible news, right? So I coach people to tell the whole truth. And my first experience of telling the truth was, I had Orthodox religious parents and I wasn't willing to lie to them. And so I was either going to get in a lot of trouble. This is a very funny story. I literally sacrificed going to a Cure concert in Madison Square Garden. I'm 54 years old, and I was supposed to go with my best friend Susan, and I'm the youngest of four kids, and everyone in the family was a liar. Like I was trained in the way to lie perfectly so that I could do what I want on a weekend. And my parents wouldn't know better. And in this one big radical moment in my life, my dad looked at me out of that eye down the newspaper hanging over and was like, "Where you going, kiddo?" And I'm like, gonna give the pat answer I'm supposed to. And I go with my heart racing, "If I tell you the truth, will you let me go?" And that was it. Like, and my mother was perched on her spot in the bed, and I was there. Like, and it was like I like broke the fourth dimension. Like I like did the thing none of the kids had ever done, and I was allowed to go to the concert. And so that was the beginning of my journey of teaching people to tell the whole truth and to, deal with it in all new ways. And so that was the beginning. I was 14.
Mm. And are you just like that naturally? Is that your personality, or is there something that kind of instigated you to tell the truth at that point?
I would say I took religion a little more seriously. I think I was very literal about what it was trying to teach, right? Like tell the truth. I meant it. And I felt like a liar. And throughout my life, I have gone back to lying, right? Like I went to college, I would cheat. Like I went back to lying in many different times in my life, and then radically came to a revelation of I felt terrible inside. And I could
Mm.
feel the difference in my love life. I could feel the difference with my parents. I could feel the difference in my relationships when I was a truth teller or I was what I nicknamed sleazy, pleasing people so they'd be happy with me. But it was really sleazy because I wasn't being true to myself about what I thought, what I felt, what I was dealing with. So
Mm.
what the nickname is secret free. I don't keep secrets. I don't keep anything secret.
Yeah. So it seems like you had that deep self-awareness and that moral core early on in your life. And that seems to be something a lot of people struggle with in their life. In your experience, Lauren, why do you think that's the case? Why do people struggle with telling themselves the truth?
Well, they don't want to tell it to themselves. And they also don't want to tell it to others, right? So if you tell the truth to yourself or others, right, to yourself, you then go, I'm really mad at this person, and then I'm going to be fake. And so feeling fake feels terrible, right? So if you go, live and let live, live and let live, and then you're like quietly seething and really being like, it's my problem, my problem, then you never have to have what people call a confronting conversation. And then you never have to have a confronting conversation that could go worse. Right. So if you tell the truth to someone, I don't like what you just did. I can't believe you're, and then fill in the blank. I don't know why you did this to me, or I really thought this of you. It starts to feel like, that land of judgment. Like you're judging me. Yeah, people are judging each other. And then because judgment on the outside is like illegal, we lie on the inside.
And do you think
And
people
so
intuitively know that they're lying to themselves?
over time, no, they think they're being a good person. People think that lie, like my terrible point that I hate making is that lying has become a virtue. Like if I tell you you look unhappy in your marriage, if I tell you you just had four drinks, what are you thinking? You're about to go, like, don't you know you drink too much? Right? Like, you don't look good. You don't look happy. Like everything someone would say that could be construed as hard to tell someone or something you'd keep as a secret to yourself, that's confrontation. That's deeper honesty. That's intimacy. That's where, like, let me just be nice and never go deep with another person about what I really think and have the disagreement that truth brings out, right? So the truth gets a very bad rap, and being nice gets a very good rap. And even if it's not really getting a good rap, lying, not, why should I tell you that I think it was rude you were late? It's not going to, you're always late. I'll just expect it. I won't have a fight with you for that. Right. So everyone justifies avoiding confrontation. And then the worst part is then they'll gossip to like, you're not going to, of course, Susan was late. Right. And then everyone like, runs little different realities about not telling anyone the truth or dealing straight on with people. So that's kind of like a gist. But then think about a marriage, think about your children, think about your
the
boss,
bigger
think
issues.
about, then it goes like from the smallest issue you won't tell the truth about to how much bigger it can get.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we can lose a lot of time and really dig ourselves into a hole when we do that.
We start to believe it. We think, because the minute you start to make very big decisions about not telling the truth to someone, you start to shape yourself into that's how I am, that's who I am, that's who I've always been. That's the way I'm going to stay.
Interesting. So you reshape your identity, in other words, to accommodate that truth.
Yeah, that's what I do in the methodology is someone will go, I want the love of my life. And I don't know what's going on. I can't get them. Right. And I'm like, well, give me your history of your haunting moments in your relationship, everything that ever happened to you in your relationships through your past, make a list of them. Like, so I make people go through their past and figure out what happened in their past that literally blocked their life because they made decisions and they took moments out and everything changed because of that one relationship where they decided they told the truth or they did this or they didn't do that. And then they reshaped their thinking because they either lied and didn't deal with it or whatever happened hurt them so much. And now they won't talk about it. And now they do it this way so everyone's shaping their lives based on a lot of things that I would consider lies.
And I know that you talk a lot about our childhood and how our parents' issues or traumas, how that influenced our lives, even if that happened way before we were born. And I know that in your coaching methodology, you dive deep into a client's history to explore that aspect of their lives. So can you please say more about that?
This is I actually think it's one of the most spiritually cool things I've ever bumped into in my entire life, right? Like it literally stopped me dead in my tracks in coaching because a woman who I helped figure out she wanted a divorce, she wasn't happy in her marriage. We got her out of her marriage, right? Beautifully, had a great divorce. And then she pops up into my head years later. Like, think 2 years later, I start thinking about her. And I have a rule. If I start thinking about someone, I have to check in on them. I call this woman, who's a great lady, and I'm like, why am I thinking about you? Is there anything going on? She's like, oh my God, I'm about to move in with my new boyfriend. And I'm like, oh, okay, there's a good reason. Yeah. Tell me all about him. Okay, ready? Brace yourselves. Okay. This is a very serious banking woman. Okay. With a daughter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. She's about to help a man get a green card who she's turning 40 and he's 29. And I was like, what? Like, get to my couch. Can we talk about this? And then imagine she knows me and I'm frightening. And so she's scared of me and she's like, I'll get to your couch. So we then sit down. We find out that her father, the brain surgeon, had 4 marriages. And her mom, also a brilliant woman, very successful, had 3 marriages. Dad's second marriage, a woman my client had never met, was a Spanish green card, half his age. Now, this is a woman. And that's when I freaked out that this can't be an accident. And that's when I discovered what's called behavioral epigenetics, which is history is repeating in a family's lineage.
Okay.
Okay, so this isn't me. This is, and I think I joke, I call it the epis. The epis are coming for all of us. We all have epis, right? And if you better know your parents' history or your grandparent, you better know everybody's stories because most people are burying them because they don't want you to know Uncle Joe was not mentally well and this one had this problem. Like everyone's hiding all the
Yeah,
family
the dark
secrets.
family secrets, right?
Oh, they got a divorce, they got annulled, this one had a baby out of wedlock. Like everything is hidden. And then you don't know why it's happening to your own kids or to your own self. And so as I've studied for my whole almost, what am I heading in for 30 years of coaching, uh, I have discovered it's still the spookiest, most interesting thing you could ever do is to understand yourself better by understanding your family's history.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you tell your client?
We broke up with the guy. We definitely broke up with the guy. Because she had never understood, like she had a rough relationship with her father, and she literally didn't get she was doing that to her daughter, what her dad did to her by having marriage after marriage after marriage, and then moving these people in. Right. And if you go interview the dad, he was helping a woman out. And here she was, she loved him. And like she hadn't even considered the impact or the connecting the dots, right? She actually hadn't thought about it. So most people are actually very blind to their own history repeating in their family,
Mm,
right? We wish we were really smarter than we are, but
yeah.
we all go, Eve is blind. I'm like, no, epigenetics makes you blind, and we're not going to be blind in this life anymore.
Yeah.
It's like a wake up.
Right. And how deep
Yeah.
seated are these patterns, Lauren? Like, so how do we know we're under the influence of these epigenetic uh, patterns?
You don't go, are you? You go, you are. Right. And so what
Okay.
I have people do, so I have a program called Inner You, where
Okay.
all my work is in three different programs: Inner You Love, Inner You Life, Inner You Career. And in that, I have developed a whole process and a methodology for figuring out how you're being impacted by your humanity, the
Mm-hmm.
human condition. Okay. But when it comes to the question you just asked, it's I make you lay out your parents' positive and negative traits, your parents' positive and negative traits, and how they live in you. And then I ask you to lay out their marriage traits, positive and negative, mom and dad, and however many relationships they have and how they live in you. And then I ask you to lay out your haunting memories in the 12 areas of life. And then I ask you for your dreams in the 12 areas of life. And so what happens is when you start to get all of your dreams, your parent dynamics, and your history of hauntings, you think you're having like a very individual personal experience of life itself. When you've never gone, I'm having a history of my family and I'm the next generation. And so unless you've
Okay.
actually done the work to connect those dots, most people don't ever connect them.
Mm. Oh, that sounds like a very interesting, deep excavation. Lauren, where can people find out more about your program if they are interested in doing the sessions?
So inner you, like inner you, letter U, dot coach, or you
Okay.
can look me up. I'm Lauren Handel Zander and the Handel Group.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
I've made it incredibly affordable so you can do it. And I teach
Yeah.
classes and master classes. So it's a ball, actually. It's a lot of fun with a lot of other people.
Perfect. So I'll make sure I'll add those links in the description so you can find it after listening to this interview. So, Lauren, I want to touch on self talk because I heard you
Mm.
speak about how important it is, our inner dialogue, when it comes to the decisions we make and how we move forward in our life. In fact, you have named them, and I really love the names that you've chosen. They're actually quite hilarious. A couple of them are the chicken, the brat, and the weather reporter. So, can you please tell us more about each one of those and how they impact us?
In any given moment, a person is dealing with a lot of inner dialogue. Most people don't even know how to track their own voice in their head. Like, what is it saying to you at all times? And so I actually make people, like, if you were tracking your spending, right? How much money are you spending if you want to know where you're spending all your money, right? Well, you have to track your inner dialogue to understand what the voice in your head is doing to you, with you, to food, to sleep, to pushing the snooze button, to, right? So, what I have found in working with people who really want to advance their lives is that there's three main voices that are always messing with us. The voice of the chicken, which is, don't do it. Worry. Like, it's the voice of, you're going to fail. This isn't going to turn out. If you say that, they're going to yell at you. Don't ask your boss for a raise. Like, the voice of the chicken is a profound voice of all your fears. And it squawks at you, right? Like, really loud. Now, the next voice is the voice of the brat. Right now. And I've always found that one person is more chicken or more brat, just so you know. Right. And I don't know if you guys can tell, I am way more bratty than I am chicken. um, and so the voice of the brat is, I don't want to, maybe tomorrow, maybe I will. You can't make me, leave me alone. Don't ask me for that. Right. Like the bratty, right? Like, right. Like everything queen that never grew up, right? Putting you on a diet, telling you to go exercise, right? This is how dishes stay in the dish area forever, right? So the voice of the brat. And then a weather reporter, the voice of the weather reporter, this one is insidious and really dangerous because this is theories that you generalize. I've never been good at getting out of bed early. I've never been good at thinking about making money. I've never been good at, taking risks. So you generalize something, you make it like a weather report, like it's cold in the winter in Alaska, and I'm bad at staying on diets. No, it really is cold in Alaska. You being bad on a diet is not like cold in Alaska. You can't change cold in Alaska. Well, maybe we can these days, but but a person can be great on a diet. They actually could. Like, it's not true. You can't change the weather in Alaska, but you can change your ability to be good on a diet because we think of it like a weather report. Like, I've always been this way. Then we get out of having to really face ourselves. And that's another way we lie to ourselves.
Which ones do you think are the most common based on your coaching experience?
They're all happening at the same time. They're stopping people. Like, so you'll have whatever area you're suffering in, right? Like, you wish you had more money. You wish you had more love. You wish you could change careers. You wish you had a better relationship with your family. Like, whatever you think, there's generalizations, which I would call the macro themes or weather reports that are always happening. Like, what's the weather in an area you're not happy? And then you have a predominant chicken or brat. I can, like, one voice is more dominating as to why the weather front's singing. So I would look at it that way.
And I think one more thing that really prevents people from making progress in their lives is the inability to stick with things. They tend to break promises that they make to themselves. And I've heard you say that it's more challenging for people to keep promises to themselves than to others. So what is your advice for people who feel like they're really falling short and following through with the choices and the plans that they've made for their life? Where can they get started on kind of getting themselves out of this self-defeating behavior pattern?
So first of all, I've never met a person who doesn't have it in an area. Like, even the most successful people, so everyone will be dealing with this challenge for the rest of their lives. Just get it. Like, accept the mission, right? You will suck in areas. And the only way you will be happy is by taking on an area you suck in and really developing personal integrity in it. You really are suffering and you really want to change an area. And then how I teach how to change that area is I call it personal integrity, your ability to keep a promise to yourself. We're good at keeping it to other people, but we're not good at even making it for ourselves. We know we want to change jobs. We know we want to have more sex in our marriage. We know we want to have more fun with our kid, right? So, what I teach people to do is to make a promise. And I joke, I call it the promise land, right? Where you keep promises to yourself that you make for your own life. And that you make a promise. You do not make it in your head alone. It will not turn out. It never does. So you have to actually tell someone else about it.
So get an accountability partner.
Yes. But actually, what even works better is if you tell someone about it. Like I always make promises to my children, right? And I pay them if I break my promise because it has a double pay. Like I want to teach them to keep promises. And I don't, and then you think they'll remind me if I break it, like, oh, yeah, they're coming for their money, right? So it's an ideal scenario. So you make a promise with someone and you put in what I call a consequence, right? It's not a punishment, it's a structure for accountability, right? And figuring out the right consequence for a person is an awesome thing. So all I need to do for a real consequence, if I want to keep a promise, is threaten my coffee, right? I'll do anything for my cup of coffee in the morning. I don't know about you, but I live for my cup of coffee in the morning. So if I was like when I wanted to meditate, like actually meditate every day, I was like, no coffee till I meditate, no screen time till I meditate. Guess what happened? I meditated twice a day, 20 minutes. Told my kids they'd get money. But I really had to, like, it's just like, if you suck at keeping a promise, you have to do the work to change your behavior. It's a spiritual endeavor. That's how I teach.
Nice. But I would imagine you need a lot of self-control and be willing to delay gratification for that to work.
With all of my clients, like for example, I work with a lot of men who don't want to drink as much as they do.
Yep.
Right? Like imagine a bunch of men don't want to drink as much as they do. And what we do, because you want to put in a consequence you'll keep that won't kill you, but pinches you, like teaches you a lesson. Mm-hmm. And you would only make a promise in an area you want to change. So imagine the desires there, and then there's no real accountability. So what I do with, like, here's a hysterical one that's worked for 30 years. 30 years. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you have the third drink, the fourth drink, you have to throw $100 out the roof of your car.
Ouch. I mean, yeah.
Right. And I'm telling you, it works, right? Or you have to pay someone for, that cigarette, right? You want a cigarette? It's fine. It's a $500 cigarette. Right? You're not in trouble for smoking it. You owe $500 if you're trying to quit smoking, right? So anything you want to limit, you're going to have to create tax on it, something that's going to have you think twice and really fight the voice in your head. So as the lower self, the voice in your head that's already into that vice is not planning on giving it up. If you have a scrolling problem, if you have an eating issue, if you don't exercise, you don't hang out, anything you don't do, you're already addicted to not doing it. And then you have a world of weather reports and reasons and a brat and everything not to. So you're really, in order to change, you're really going to have to shift in reality. And so a promise and a consequence and someone holding you accountable, you'd be amazed that when you want to change a behavior, and you really do want to change it, if you put in a promise, like make a promise in time, for the next 6 weeks, I'll meditate. For the next 6 weeks, I only want 3 drinks and at the most. On the 4th drink, I'll pay $100. I'll throw it out the window. I'll not have my cup of coffee. And you tell someone like your kid that you won't lie to, you'll start to hear the voice in your head. And you'll start to understand the voice of the brat. Come on, it doesn't matter. You need it. You feel that you need it, right? Like you'll start to understand the voice in your head is not your friend, right? It's got an agenda, and its agenda is usually 3 more drinks, right? It likes to get high. Like, what are we trusting in there anyway? What's exactly happening in our mind? And then you go back to the puppies and find out your dad. Now you understand your father's third, fourth, fifth, third. Mm-hmm.
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 And I heard you mention the lower self. Are you referring to the reptilian part of our brain, the one that tends to lack self-control?
Yes. I don't, I say we have a lower self. I don't want to get out of bed. Leave me alone. That one, right? Eat another cookie. Who cares? Don't tell them you're sick. You're perfectly fine. Okay. Like the liar in you, the lower self. And then I say we have a highest lower self. And I joke that that's the God stick where you're mad at, like, you're the worst. You're never going to lose the weight. Like if you don't do this, you're going to be sorry. Like all the fear of God and everything that could go wrong. It's your own voice, right? It yells at you. So that's your highest lower self. And then it also needs a drink or a cookie, right? So it's always kind of getting you back down to your lower self. And then past those two voices is a higher self. And your higher self is what you wish you were doing all the time. It isn't a goody two shoes. It isn't, but it doesn't have to lie.
Hmm.
Mm.
And how
So
can
that's
we
how I teach
how
it.
can we tune into our higher self?
You actually only can hear your higher self after you hear your lower self, your highest lowest self, and then ask your higher self what it really thinks of those two
Because it's
voices.
quieter,
It is
right?
very it needs those two voice the highest lower self, the highest lower self. So if the lower self is a 1 on a scale of 1 to 10, don't go up. And then the 10 is get out of bed or you'll get in trouble, right? That's not, it's fun to get out of bed and be alive. Right? Like it's not even close to loving life, right? And so it's quiet or it's being ignored. Or why don't you want to get out of bed? Right? Like, why don't you, like, do you really need exercise? Do you need to be eating healthy? Like, what's wrong that your higher self, you can't even hear it? Like, how healthy are you? It's a real process to find out if you're living your best life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I imagine that you offer practices and exercises that we can do to really be able to distinguish between those two, right, in your coaching program?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a variety depending on what you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of tools I've developed that I teach in my programs. And then once you know them, they're yours for life, right? Once you understand it and you've done the homework yourself, it's like once you know how to use a GPS, you never want to take out a map again. So there really are tools that are worth learning that shift your ability to hear your own inner dialogue, to hear the voices in your head, to stop them, right? Whether you want to use it or not, whether you want to take out the wrench from the drawer or not is up to you. But what I've been developing for 30 years are real tools to take over the mind and to truly love yourself and love life.
Great. So I just want to let our listeners know if you want to take advantage of Lauren's great resources, her courses, her programs, and I believe you have a book too, right, Lauren?
I do.
Yeah, so you can find all of that and more at her website, handelgroup.com. I will include that in the description, including her social handles.
Once anyone buys Inner You, any one of them, I have master classes going on that are free forever, right? So I love teaching and I'm always teaching 1 or 2 classes a week and they go on and they're rolling And we put together with accountability buddies so you can get your own buddy so you're not practicing on your husband or your wife or your kid. And so it's really a way to connect, meet people, and work on self-development.
Oh, that's very
So,
generous of you.
you know, the world needs it.
They do. They definitely do. All right, Lauren, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us to share your stories and wisdom with our community. I really appreciate it.